So when we look at chicken, market demand and consumer acceptability is high. Chicken is one of the most consumed meats that we have. If you don't believe it, look at how much is imported. And the amount of land you need to start a chicken venture, is medium. As in, you can relatively, if your house is on one plot and you have a backyard, you could comfortably start probably a 200 to 500 capacity farm at home. If you are using battery cages or so on, you don't need so much space. If you want to scale, yes, you need more space, but comparing it to other animals, we would say land and space requirement is medium. Financial feasibility and the return on investments is high, especially for broilers. If you have markets, you turn over your money quickly, you make a relatively good profit. Now, the technical knowledge and skill is also high, especially when you are dealing with foreign birds. There is so much that goes into knowing we have to do the vaccination on this day. We need to do the next vaccination at this day. We need to debeak at this time, know what molting is, know how to force molt your birds, then the various medications that need to be administered, and even how to administer the medication. When converting your grams to liters of water, it requires a certain level of technical acumen. So it's not as simple as the road runners that we have. Then when it comes to chicken or poultry farming, it is also labor intensive. Chicken and poultry is also labor intensive. Most of the time, if you want your poultry to be profitable, you need someone to be on the farm throughout the day. There are some of the other ventures that someone can come and work in the morning and come back the next day in the morning, or work in the morning, leave for the whole day and come back in the evening. But when it comes to poultry, the labor and time commitment is high. You either need to be there or you need to employ someone to be there. Then health management and diseases. Poultry, you will deal with a lot of diseases and health issues, especially if you are dealing with the foreign birds, because the birds that we have here, a lot of the time, are either imported eggs that were hatched, so they were built for a different climate, and sometimes the parent stock that some of our local farms have, they've exceeded their lifespan, but they haven't replaced their parent stock. So the birds that you get, you will do so much to keep alive. There's a farm in Kumasi I will leave unnamed, but whenever you go for day olds for them, they tell you, oh, when you get back, please put the birds on antibiotics. Anyone who tells you to start your day olds on antibiotics knows that there's a problem with the birds that you are picking up. So health and diseases is a big issue with poultry. Then feed availability. Here's the thing about feed availability. We've said high, as in, if you have the money, you will be able to buy poultry feed. Why? Because a lot of what we feed the poultry birds, human beings are competing for it. Corn, soya, wheat bran, we are competing for some of those things. So there's availability of the feed, but the feed is expensive. So will you get the feed to buy? Yes. You could drive out in the city of Tamale, Techima, Accra, and you will find feed shops littered all over the place. So it's not difficult to get the feed, but the feed is expensive. Let me go back. Then scalability. How easy it is to scale. It's dropped out of the screen, but we'll shift it for the next one. How easy it is to scale. Scaling up is not too difficult. So scaling is relatively easy. Or we'll say you can easily. So I gave it a high score. All right. Then we come to cattle farming. So when it comes to cattle farming, market demand is high. Beef is one of our most consumed. I think all of you know your beef. If you go to the market, you know who you buy your beef from. Now, when it comes to land and space, it's high. I know some people who do zero grazing cattle, but even if you are looking at dealing with the manure, the amount of manure that is produced, you really need space to be able to do your cattle. Even those doing urban ventures need much more space than most. Your return on investment is medium because if you are going to feed a calf and grow it to a certain level, if you are going to grow your cows, it's going to take you at least, even if you are purchasing a calf to fatten, on good feeding, it's going to take you a year to 18 months to be able to get it to the size where you will get something good on the market. So return on investment takes time. A cow will also, if you also want to do it as ranching, a cow will give you 2 calves in 3 years. Whereas a goat will probably give you 4 to 6 kids in a year, or even more, depending on what you are doing. So, all right. Then technical knowledge and requirements is quite low for cattle. You don't need too much technical know-how. They are quite hardy. Labor and time is relatively low. Health and disease risks will give it a medium score. Feed availability will give it medium. Yes, there's grass out there. Yes, there are so many things you can give them. But from the nutritional standpoint, there are so many other things you should do if you are doing it as a professional cattle ranch. So that's why we are giving it a medium score. And the cost of feed is relatively low. How quickly can you scale a cattle ranch? We'll give it a medium because it takes quite a bit to be able to scale. You can't scale as fast as chickens or pigs or goats. So we'll give it a medium score. Don't worry, we are going to have a Q&A session so that wherever what you have is itching, we'll scratch with the answers. All right, good. So we've looked at poultry, that's chickens, eggs, and meat. We've looked at cattle. And now we are going to goats. Market demand and consumer acceptability, very high. Okay. Land and space requirements, we chose medium, but I've also seen people do it on low. Financial feasibility and return on investment is quite high. Goats are quite high. Technical knowledge and skill requirements is quite low. Generally for goats are quite hardy, especially if you are dealing with local breeds. They are quite hardy, so you don't need too much technical know-how. Labor and time commitment is quite low. Although goats are stubborn, but goats also generally do take care of themselves. Health management and diseases, apart from some particular diseases which can be managed, so we gave it a medium score. Feed availability is high, feed cost is low, and scalability to be able to scale is high. That's the criteria we gave it. All right, so that's for goats. Then for pig farming, it's interesting, especially not much up north here. Even up north here, there's quite some good demand, but you have to be very clandestine about marketing. But generally, there's a high demand for pork. Land and space requirement is medium. Return on investments is medium to high. We'll put it there. The technical knowledge and skill is about medium, not as intense as poultry, but also not as simple as goats, because you have to give your iron injections when the piglets are born. You should be able to castrate your piglets and dock their tails. You have to keep deworming them at periodic times, and then also sometimes administering of antibiotic injections and so on. So we'll give it a medium for technical know-how. Labor and time commitment is relatively low. I know so many pig farmers who go to the farm, they clean, they feed in the morning, and some only come back the next day when they have good security there. They come back the next day to work. Others do morning and evening, and it's not as difficult to handle. And generally, pigs are one of the neatest And that may blow your mind, but pigs are one of the neatest animals to deal with. A pig will not lie where it has defecated. So when you come into the farm every morning, you know which part of the stall you are going to have to clear the feces out of, and these kind of things. They are quite neat, but you can ask me questions why I say that when we get to the Q&A. Then health management, we gave it a medium score. Unless you have the African swine fever coming, generally you are fine. You may have one or two challenges from time to time, but generally you are fine. Feed availability, we gave it a medium. And then scalability is quite high. I think medium to high. Okay. Then sheep farming. That's an interesting one because I use this example when we are looking at market demand and consumer acceptability. If I ask to show by hand, okay, let's even just do that now. Please show by hand if this year you've eaten sheep. We are in April. Please, or let's rather do it this way. If you haven't eaten sheep meat from January till now, please show by hand. I want to, or please go into the comment section. Let's go into the chat. Well, we are showing by hand. So, or go into the chat and type in there, I haven't eaten, or I have. Let's rather go into the chat. So let's go into the chat. If you've eaten sheep, please type in there this year, type in I have. If you haven't, say I haven't. Okay, so I haven't. Moses says he hasn't. Ophelia hasn't. Dr. Avonyo hasn't. Ibrahim has. Samsung hasn't. David hasn't. Samuel hasn't. Abdul Fattah has. Brian hasn't. Haruna has. You may be seeing a pattern here. Kwesi Akomia has. Tairu has. Kofi hasn't. Idrisu, I have, I haven't, haven't, and it goes on. This is just a small social experiment. We unlike pork, that there are people who say I won't eat pork. With sheep meat, generally everybody eats it, but few people actually go to the market, or few wives when budgeting. Please, I'm trying to be gender sensitive here. Few households will be budgeting their meat consumption for the month and say, when we go to the market, we'll buy sheep. So when it comes to sheep, we give it a medium score. It's popular for funerals, it's popular for outdoorings, it's popular for our Muslim festivals, and then popular for the suya joints by the roadside, but not a staple that households are consuming as they are consuming chicken, beef, and goat meat. All right. So the land or space is low to medium. Financial feasibility and return on investment is high, because you'll be amazed at what rams sell for. The same weight of a goat and a ram, the ram will sell for much higher, because a ram is not only for the meat, but it's only for so many, also for social activities as well. Then the technical know-how you need is medium. Labor and time commitment is low. Health management and diseases, we give it a medium score. Feed availability is high, and the cost of feed is relatively low. Scalability, we give it somewhere a medium. They are not as prolific as goats and pigs or chickens, but they are better than cattle. So yeah, that's what we see there. All right.